It's One More and I'm Out of Here's Illegal Shift coming to you live from the One More and I'm Out of Here studio. I'm John. I'm the announcer of the show, I guess. Joining me, as always, is the host of the show, Jason Kiefer. He's a firefighter somewhere in southeastern Ohio. This is the premiere show and the home podcast of the Cincinnati Bengals, the best professional sports team in southeastern Ohio. Jason, it's been 2 weeks since I last saw you. How have you been in that time?
Good. I've missed you. I hated that we had to take last week off with
It's hard to be apart
due to work schedules, but
yeah.
You did a fantastic job on your solo one that you did. That was very good.
Yeah, some people listen to that.
I definitely did. Once I found it, took me a second. I don't know what the hell I was doing wrong, but once I got it, was awesome. You killed it.
Well, you know, it was kind of one of those things. I didn't tell anyone I was going to do it. Didn't tell Eric about it or anything. I'm just like, all right, here you go. Here's something for you to listen to. And if you don't want to listen to it, you know, you don't have to. So, any cool fire stories or anything last week?
No, very, very boring. Very boring. It's kind of the way we like it.
No one didn't cut out anyone out of a car, or
No, we did have a horrible car wreck the other day, and everybody walked away unscathed outside of like a seatbelt mark. But this car, I wished I had a picture of it. This Escalade just got smoked. But two really, really nice cars, a Chevy 2500, brand new, and then this Escalade, and it got smoked. I can't believe the lady walked away from it. But
yeah, well, glad that we have you there to stage and hold down the perimeter. And what exactly did you do?
I swept up all the
Oh, you swept up the debris. Well, you know, car accidents happen a lot.
Truck driver.
Car accidents happen a lot. I'm always wondering why there's never any debris. It's because people like Kiefer out there doing that stuff. 25 years, clean streets in Cincinnati.
That's right.
Thanks, Keith. Guys, this show's brought to you by GhostBed. Do you like the show? Do you want us to not be working for free? Because that's like an intolerable working condition. So we would want you to go to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Check out what they have there. Eggs are coming down. That means it's now in your budget to buy a huge bed. So please buy the whole bed. Use the offer code Wolfpack so that they know that we sent you there. That way they keep remunerating payments to us. It's a kickback. It's a USAID style kickback. I'm telling you how it works. This is how advertising works. You go there, you check out their cooling technology, their adjustable frames, their mattresses, their sheets, their pillows, all the stuff that they have designed from the molecular level up to give you the best possible sleep that you can possibly have. You go there and you find those products, throw some in your cart and check out with that offer code. They know that they can trust us to advertise for them, and it's a great relationship that we have with GhostBed. They're friends of first responders. They're friends of veterans. Of any war from any country, doesn't matter. As long as you're fighting, GhostBed appreciates you. You could try them out, not with a 99-day or night tryout, but 101 nights. You could try it out. And if you don't like it, they have a customer service team that's going to work with you to make it right, because sleep's the most important thing for you. If you're trying to get through a stressful time at your job, whether your job is stressful because you're a firefighter or, you know, because you
or a dispatcher that worked 28.
Well, we don't have to bring me into it.
Oh, but you're always going to be brought into it.
Leave the mothers out of it. But GhostBed will do great things for you. We appreciate GhostBed for supporting the parent companies and various associated shows since way back before I was ever a twinkle in anyone's eye, podcast-wise. We also want to thank for sponsoring this show, of course, Boeing. At Boeing, we've spent over a century engineering and assembling the airplanes that could keep the world moving. We've had a few hiccups along the way. Oh, well, we've learned a lot. Hey, innovation isn't a straight line. It's more of a flight path with occasional turbulence. The important thing is we're always improving. We're doubling down on safety, precision, and yes, making sure that everything stays securely attached mid-flight. Because at the end of the day, we know you're trusting us to get from point A to point B with no unexpected detours. So here's our promise. We're going to try harder. We're going to do better.
We're going to tighten all the bolts.
We're going to making planes you can count on. Boeing, engineering the skies, learning as we go. But you know, learning faster now. My thanks to Boeing for sponsoring the show. You could tell that
That was a good one.
they're working hard to find places where anyone will talk about Boeing. So, well, this is what we had been hoping for 2 years, was that Aaron Rodgers would, not become a Jet for life. He would walk the Brett Favre path, and then return to the NFC North out of spite, as Brett Favre did, and lead the Vikings to victory. It's what we all wanted. If the Vikings are going to win at all, I prefer it be with Aaron Rodgers, because that's a seed in the craw of Green Bay. I say that within a month's time, I'll be going back to Green Bay for the NFL draft. Perhaps we'll have to do some sort of special illegal shift coverage of second day of the draft, because I will be there in Titletown. My broken, bloody corpse, blood-stained white Cowboys jersey, a symbol of everything that goes wrong when you're surrounded by Packers and Bears fans. To be honest, you're probably just killed with the crossfire there. But no, there'll be NFL fans from probably around the world there in Green Bay, and I'm excited to go to my first NFL draft. This is the first draft that's in Green Bay. Having them in different parts of the country is a new thing. They used to always be in New York. And let's face it, gang, no one wants to go to New York. It's now the situation in this country where New York is so bad that they would rather go to a town in Wisconsin with fewer than 200,000 people. So,
when is that exactly?
It's the last week of April. It's like April 24th.
Last week of April. Nice.
Yep.
Heck yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yep.
You just deciding to jaunt up?
I've got some extended family in the area, so I won't have to be staying at an overpriced hotel. But
nice.
There's something about going to one of the early cradles of the NFL, and I know that you would rightly say that the NFL was born in Ohio. Of course it was. But the greatness of the game was, of course, extended by Vince Lombardi and the feats of the Packers in the 60s. And going up to Lambeau and seeing all that, it's exciting.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
And the last time I was up there, for those of you who pay close attention to my life in the show, will know that the last time I went up there, I impersonated a Bears fan by wearing a Jay Cutler jersey the entire time I was there. I had long conversations with Bears fans about what it's like to be a Bears fan, that I got to tell you, they're depressed. This is not a joke. This is not a bit. This is not me putting down another team. But I sat outside a restaurant with a guy, a pizza restaurant, no less, just outside of Green Bay. And I was wearing a Bears jersey, so he felt safe with me. But his kids had little Bears hats on. He was a Bears dad. And we had a frank discussion about how Jay Cutler really was a lot better than most people give him credit, and about how there's just no hope for the future, about how he every year it's a different quarterback and they never have one. And I don't know shit about the Bears, so I'm just trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about the entire time and not tell like a bald-faced lie. Like, so where in Chicago are you from? Because it occurred to me, Chicago doesn't have fans from sea to shining sea like the Dallas Cowboys do. I hadn't even thought about it. I'm so used to being a part of America's team that wherever I go, I fit in. But I only fit in as a Chicago's Bear fan in the greater Chicago area. So I'd explain it. I'm from Virginia. And they're like, well, then why do you like the Bears? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't think of a good lie, So
the jersey was half off.
The jersey was mostly off. It was finding a secondhand Chicago Bears jersey is very easy to do, and you can be done for pennies on the dollar. But we all wanted to see Aaron Rodgers' purple jersey. We wanted to see him walking that same line that Brett Favre laid out before him. The greatness of Brett Favre, the spite of Brett Favre, I'm not sure why it was such a thing that Aaron Rodgers wanted to do, or why we all wanted to see it so much. But breaking news, it's not going to happen. Vikings not currently pursuing Aaron Rodgers. So moving forward with J.J. McCarthy, their draft prospect from last year out of Michigan, according to a report. Now, this comes from Fox News. America's watching. We used to say fair and balanced because we used to present both sides, but now we just say, like, hey, everyone's watching us, so we can say whatever the fuck we want. That's Fox News. The Minnesota Vikings are content with J.J. McCarthy as starting quarterback amid the Aaron Rodgers rumors and free agency for now. The Vikings have reportedly rejected multiple trade calls on McCarthy and are moving forward with a 2024 first-round pick as their starting quarterback, per an NFL Network report on Wednesday. The report also said Vikings plan to add veteran quarterback with McCarthy, but are not pursuing Rodgers at this time. So they're looking for a veteran, someone who can do it, just not this guy. It's possibly because they know that he's toxic ayahuasca. It's just going to be a bad trip for this team.
Oh, the ayahuasca.
Throw back a shot. With the Vikings currently not in pursuit of Rodgers, the New York Giants and Pittsburgh Steelers are seen as the two early teams that could sign the four-time MVP if Rodgers chooses to play next season. I saw a great meme on it where Aaron Rodgers is talking to the president of play or football operations in New York, and he says, listen, I could take the New York Giants from a 2-win team to a 5-win team. I can more than double your wins.
You just need more than 2.5 minutes in the game.
Yeah, as long as I'm playing for more than 2.5 minutes, we'll see. If I have some elbow room to really make a difference here in New York, it's going to happen. McCarthy flashed during the preseason last year as he completed 11 of 17 passes for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. However, the 22-year-old tore his meniscus. This is McCarthy. This is the new quarterback for the Vikings. In the preseason game and underwent season-ending surgery in August, which was sad. McCarthy's injury left Sam Darnold as the unquestioned starter going into the season, and boy, did Sam Darnold have a great year, didn't he? And then the Vikings did what the Vikings always do. They take a great team that just happened to be beat one day by a slightly better team that was just better that day, and they said, listen, we got a great team here. Fuck it. Let's tear it apart. It's over. Let's destroy it. They did the same thing with Case Keenum. And I know what you're thinking. Like, seriously, John? Case Keenum? Seriously, you don't remember Case Keenum's year with the Minnesota Vikings? It was spectacular. It was exactly like the Sam Darnold year. And they just tore it all down. They completely ripped it apart. They pulled out the catalytic converter that was Case Keenum right out of that truck.
Where's he at now?
Do I don't think that he's playing, but you should Google that.
I got it.
You Google it. Darnold thrived as he led the team to a 14-3 record. He completed just over 66% of his passes, 35 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Where's Keenum
now? Houston Texans in 23-24.
Okay, so he hasn't been signed anywhere yet.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10
teams. Nice. He's approaching
with the Texans once.
He's approaching Josh McCown territory. That's very nice. Despite the incredible success that Darnold had, his last 2 performances left a lot to be desired. Yeah, the team blew apart at the end of the year, which kind of cast a lot of doubt on Sam Darnold. It was sad to see, but it's also what I perfectly predicted on this show, that Vikings got a Viking and that they would do that. Will Crane's like, it's not going to happen. We're the best ever. Sorry, Will Crane. I don't mean to make fun of you, but that's kind of what happened. I said the Vikings would eventually regress towards their average, and I know I told you.
Well, and I'm curious. I mean, we're the Vikings fans, and we got Will in here.
Hi, Will. Sorry,
and I'm asking, like, are they upset about it? I mean,
no one hates the Vikings more than Vikings fans, and they know that a loving God would prevent the Vikings from ever winning the Super Bowl. So, no, they're fine with it. I mean, they get their I don't even think they really get their hopes up. The Lions fans kind of got their hopes up. They had their hopes raised and dashed for the first time in a half a century. But Vikings fans, just their whole thing is they live like James Bond. They win a game and they're like, well, we live to die another day. They're like, today's a good game, but who the hell knows about next week? It could all be over next week. They have a strong sense of fatalism that you could say is sad, but it very much allows them to enjoy the present, right? That's why I compare it to James Bond. He lives the way he lives because he could die at any time.
Right.
And the Vikings fans, when they're enjoying a good season, it's boats and hoes for that Vikings fans, but they when that bullet finally comes for them and it's over, they're just like, I knew this day would come. So
I don't know if you watched the documentary, the Aaron Rodgers, the latest documentary they did, but they were talking about, and I think equating it to the Brett Favre stuff is, for the longest time it was that him and Favre didn't like each other because Favre wasn't going to groom him and make him the next guy. And supposedly, and I'm sure it's for the documentary, but supposedly it came out that wasn't the case at all, and they really didn't have a rift. It's just Aaron's a weird dude, for one. And
Well, he didn't used to be that weird. Back, you got to remember when he came to Green Bay, he didn't
Right.
have the chops to be weird. When
he was the new guy. He was the new guy in town.
yeah, you can't be weird when you're new. You have to get people to like you. The NFL, like anything else, is a person's business. But only once you're a 4-time MVP and winning a Super Bowl can you like afford to go to Egypt instead of training and do ayahuasca instead of protein shakes. So, as I recall, I'm just going by my memories. So guys, I'm not like a scientist here or whatever. But I remember, Brett Favre was in a similar situation. He's a multiple MVP. He'd won a Super Bowl. And he didn't want to leave. He obviously didn't want to quit playing football because he played for several years after finally winding up with the Vikings. Kind of had a bad breakup with Green Bay. And then when Aaron Rodgers comes in or whatever, the baton's getting passed. And it's just like, it's like anything else, Keith. Like, do you feel like you can't do your job right now?
No.
Okay. What if all your responsibilities were given to a guy that's 22 years old?
He could have it.
Well, you ruined my analogy. My point
Well,
is,
I know, and I'm going to because you're talking to a guy that has 3.5 years left. Okay, here, you want this? Go ahead.
It's a little bit different for you because,
Yes.
Brett, there's a little bit more glamour and competitiveness to being a football player than there is a football player, or there is to being a firefighter. My point is that no one wants to be replaced. He's not ready to go. Brett Favre likes being the guy in Green Bay, and all of a sudden they bring in Aaron Rodgers. Well, the same thing happened to Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love. The 2020 draft, all of a sudden, it's like out of nowhere. It's like Jordan Love's the future of Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm still kind of the future of Green Bay, aren't I? Question mark. And so, because of the way that Green Bay runs their operations, they kind of they left a bad taste in one of the greatest players they ever had, which is Brett Favre, and then they doubled down on that in Aaron Rodgers, and and I think that's how you create the spiteful redemption arc that goes back through Minneapolis.
And I get it. I knew exactly where you're going with that, and I understand that because it's just like for us that aren't professional athletes, but high school sports, you're trying out, and all of a sudden this new kid moves into town, and you're like, oh shit, I heard good things about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I get it.
I was in the cusp of making the dogfighting team my senior year.
Nice.
That's what we had. We didn't have basketball. Come on.
Dogfight. Was Michael Vick your coach?
Michael Vick was only like 3 years older than me, so no, he was not a coach. He was a hometown hero, though. There was nobody that didn't like Michael Vick when I was in high school, just for the record. Right. You know which team ought to really be trying hard to pick him up? And I'm going to mention a team that you would surprise you. Chicago Bears. They should sign him out of spite. You work here now. That's your punishment for beating us all those times.
Right.
You work here. You're the backup quarterback for the Chicago Bears. That's your role here now.
You're not going to play. You're not even dressing. Actually, just go ahead and mop the locker room while we're out.
That's the ultimate final humiliation for Aaron Rodgers. If Chicago ever wanted to get back to him, they should make him a handsome offer. And just you're buying because you would be buying Aaron Rodgers' dignity. And they would be able to put those jerseys in the shop. And, I'd have to wonder the phenomenon because the Vikings fans embraced Brett Favre. They loved him. It was bizarre because they, of course, spent however long hating Brett Favre. But, if there's a number 8 or a number 12 blue and orange Rodgers jersey, how well will that sell out in the pro shop there at Soldier Field? One just has to wonder.
It would look weird.
It would definitely look
it's
weird.
like you said, Favre wearing the purple jersey. Like whenever somebody, some big star moves on to another team, you're like, God, I never thought I'd see that, but I don't even know how to my mind's not even working that way.
You should they show this on Instagram sometimes, but it's players not so famous jerseys, like where you see I don't remember exactly, Jerry Rice playing for the Titans or something, it's just like, what? That happened, like Jason Witten, like that year he played for the Las Vegas Raiders, or Emmitt Smith, the year he played for the Arizona Cardinals or whatever. Like, yeah, you occasionally have these weird random years where this thing happened and you never knew it. Randy Moss with the Ravens or something. I don't know. Patriots. He went to somewhere after the Patriots too. He had a weird, he played a weird year somewhere else. Look for those sometimes. I always wanted a Emmitt Smith Cardinals jersey just because it has to be a weird piece of history. Speaking of the Packers, though, it's a Packers heavy show. The Packers are terrible at the tush push. Keith, I don't know if you're able to do this. I'm going to like just drop this into your lap like a hot grenade. But there's at one point the Packers last season attempted the tush push, and of course they had not been practicing it, and they were terrible at it. They couldn't get the ball handed off. I think they lost 5 yards on their tush push. They're terrible at the tush push, and they don't want Philadelphia to be able to do it. Now, I've been on the show before to say you should not be creating rules that make people not able to play football. Like, football at its core is play that is in the style of rugby. It's brutish. It's a scrum. It's a game of inches. If we get rid of the tush push, we will be demolishing football as a game of inches. I mean that sincerely. It will now be a game of yards like it normally is, like where it's a pass heavy game. The game used to be about rushing, pushing, shoving. A great game would end 0-2 back in 1900. That would be a fantastic game. And there would be many dead players on the field. It would look like a Ken Burns documentary about Antietam. Would be a great football game.
God, I love those.
I know you love those, but if we take away the tush push, I think something seriously fundamental will be lost about football. I say if you don't want to see any more tush push because it's an automatic first down on 3rd and inches, there's a couple of things that you need to do as someone who runs defense. Number one, do not let them get to 3rd and inches. You have had a couple of plays that have allowed them to get to 3rd and inches or 4th and inches.
Seems pretty logical.
You let them get up to that line to the point where they could push across it. So you've already had a couple of plays to try to stop that from happening. And then when it's 3rd down or 4th down and it's time for the tush push, stop the tush push. It's up to you to stop them.
Play defense. Weird.
Play defense. Make that play not happen. Don't just say, Mom, Dad, that's not fair. He's not allowed to do that. And I don't like seeing the Packers do that. But because we're talking about the tush push, let's read this article from Yahoo Sports.
What were you tossing in my lap like a hot grenade?
Oh, I wanted you to find up the play where the Packers can't do the tush push.
Okay.
So like Google Packers tush push, YouTube or something. Thank you for keeping me on point today.
I posted a comment up. Joe was wondering if you slept on your couch in those clothes and just came right to the show.
No, I don't have a couch. It's true. Anyway, the NFL releases official language of Packers anti-tush push rule change proposal. The NFL has released the formal language of the Packers proposal to change the rules to outlaw the tush push, or the brotherly shove, or as Jalen Hurts calls it, the quarterback sneak. Rule changes will be debated and possibly voted on in the upcoming owners meeting. And the Packers proposal, which would ban the Eagles' highly effective version of the quarterback sneak, which will get most of the attention. The NFL's brief summary of the proposal reads as follows: by Green Bay, babies. Amends Rule 12, Section 1 to prohibit an offensive player from pushing a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receives the snap immediately at the snap. If the Packers' proposal passes, Rule 12, Section 1 would be amended to say no offensive player may immediately at the snap push or throw his body against a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receive the snap to aid him in an attempt to gain yardage. This is awful. Guys, I hate the Eagles more than anyone else on earth. I'm it. If you think about it mathematically, there has to be someone who hates the Eagles more than anyone. There has to be a pinnacle guy, a guy that's at the top of the hatred pile. Guess what? It's me. I hate the Eagles more than anything, but we can't stop this play from happening. I'm sorry that it was the Eagles that have tried and perfected this play. I guarantee you that in a couple of years, the players who know how to do it well and the coach, it'll all be gone and they won't be good at it anymore. And some other team will be. It'll probably be the Chiefs because that's just how my life seems to go. But don't stop this play from happening. This is a classic rugby-style football play, and we have to allow it to happen. If the Packers' proposal passes, Rule 12, Section 1 would say no offensive player can push or throw his body against a teammate who's lying behind the snapper. Pushing the quarterback forward on a snake would become a 10-yard penalty. Green Bay. This is some shit right here. This is some fascist shit. We should throw out the word fascist a lot anymore. I don't ever say it. But giving a 10-yard penalty on a quarterback sneak, Come on now. For the rule change to pass, it would need 24 yes votes. Did you find the video?
I don't know if it's the exact one you're thinking of, but
I don't know either. I have no way of knowing.
But it pushes the narrative.
Okay, well, throw it on the screen if you get a chance. All right, so this is number 10, Jordan Love attempting it. We could barely see it. Squint your eyes, everyone.
Hold on.
Hit Control Plus. Yes.
Oops. I'm just not good at it. I don't want it in the league anymore. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. All right, I'm glad I didn't play that entire Creed song. But that is exactly the one I'm talking about. Jordan Love's, okay, snap the ball, and then someone's going to push it to me, and then he kind of like comes around to the side, like, why did you snap it? Green Bay's that bad at it. That's their attempt at the tush push. Of course, they don't want to see anyone else doing it because they don't want to have to practice that in the off season. They just want no one else to be able to do it. So shame on Green Bay. I'll see if I could talk to some people while I'm there. I don't know how I'm going to do it wearing a blue and white Cowboys jersey. I don't know, but the idea that we would get rid of the tush push is it's anathema to football. It's an offense to anyone who loves the physicality of the game. If we just want to play soccer and just get a yellow card for using our hands, that's what we're approaching. We're getting there already with not allowing defenses to touch quarterbacks, and then now we're not allowing players to push each other forward. Come on now.
Right. It's completely changing it. And and the fact that every article, as I was looking for that video, was people just blasting Green Bay, like essentially calling them babies and everything else. So I don't think they're going to get the votes. I mean,
they need 24 to pass it. Packers would obviously vote yes, so they only really need 23. The Eagles will vote no. If the Packers convince 23 more teams to join them, the tush push will be banned. The Eagles will try to persuade at least 8 teams that the way to stop the tush push should be stopped with their defense, not with a rule change. I'm sorry, but as much as it hurts my whole mouth to say, I am on the Eagles' side on this one.
Oh, wow.
Ugh.
We have turned a corner, at least for today.
Well, it's, I'm always going to be on the right side, no matter how ugly the truth is. The truth is never going to be something that is easy or comfortable. That's the thing about the truth, is that the truth stands in defiance of your comfort. You could say things like, it doesn't matter, how much lipstick you put on a pig, it's still going to be a pig. It doesn't matter if you shave down some dude's Adam's apple, he's not a girl. That's the truth, and you're never going to be able to take the sting out of that. I'm sorry. We all have to live with the truth, and we should keep the tush push. The Lions have had a couple of really good ideas for what they want to propose for rule changes. We talked about the tush push, but now the Lions propose that they want to have the playoff seeding done by record, not by division winners. This would be a huge change to the way the playoffs are done. As you know, this past year, we had kind of a log jam in the NFC North. Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions, all top teams in the NFC. And what happened was the situation where you had 3 teams all in one conference, and the first 2 spots went to the top seeds, and then the third spot from that division went to the 5th one, because of the way that it goes. That there's 4 divisions in the NFC, North, South, East, and West, and that your first 4 spots in the playoffs are seeded accordingly. And then you have wild card spots, meaning, hey, I was good too. I also get to be in the playoffs. This is essentially what the wild cards are.
Right.
But because the wild cards didn't win their division, they get kicked down to the 5th spot. This brings up old memories of the Seahawks and the Panthers getting to go to the division, being division winners with losing records. That did happen. The Seahawks once went with a 7-9 record, and the Panthers once went with a 7-1 record, I believe. And it used to be the thing that I would say is that, hey, if you have a losing record, your spot, if no one wins your division, because no one has a winning record, your spot should revert to a wild card. And then for the seeding of the playoffs, you should see if you can even hang on in that situation. But this would dramatically change the way that the entire year works and how the schedule works. Right now, division play is important because everything, even from week 1, is all about where will we be seated. We don't talk about it a lot in week 1 because with 18 weeks of football to play, we can't prognosticate to the end how the winners and losers of week 1 are going to be seated in the playoffs. It's just, there's not enough data. We don't have anything there, but it all plays into that from the very get-go because your division standing is going to feed directly into how you're going to be seated in the playoffs. I've heard people talk about before that we should go back to the way we used to do it. And I say when the way we used to do it, I mean, back when there was, before the AFC, before there was only one conference, I'm saying the way we did it back in 1960, you know, the way that it was just total top to bottom. What's your record like? I think there could be a couple pros and cons. Number one con would be it diminishes the significance of division rivalries. Because at the end of the season, you've got high drama, right? Are you going to win the division and play at home and host an NFL game, but also face a much weaker opponent? There's a high drama there. If this game comes down to win or loss, how will it set up your next game? Is your next game easily winnable, or does it look like one that you're going to have a terrible chance at winning?
Right.
That's how it'll affect the seeds. So there's high drama at the end of the year. And when you're looking at weeks 17 and 18, and sometimes you have a lot of divisions that are locked up early, like this past year, the Buffalo Bills cinched their division, I think, by Halloween. You know, there wasn't a lot of drama between the Dolphins and the Jets, and the Buffalo Bills and the Patriots. But in many divisions, at the end of the year, you have a lot of high drama for how it's going to work out, how the seeds are going to work. And when that seeding takes place, when the final game of the season is played, and now you're in postseason play and you're looking at who's going to play next week, there's a lot of drama.
Well, like this past season, the AFC North, not a lot of drama, but the wild card was huge because, the Bengals they needed, the Dolphins to lose, the Broncos, and going through. So like you're literally on pins and needles for 2 weeks.
You like doing those little things where you have to figure out who needs to lose and who needs to win. And
you've got an algorithm that's
the fact that you had to like watch a Broncos game and care about the outcome of it. Do you see how there's like a little bit of like corporate synergy there? But
it's all the money machine.
But if you get rid of it, what you're going to see in playoffs is better games. So we've expanded the playoffs so that we allowed a 7th seed in there, which basically means we have a seat at the table where they don't belong there. They don't belong in the playoffs. They're not very good. And when you watch these 7th seed games on wild card weekends, they're just not very fun to watch, to be honest with you. And if we start seeding things a little bit differently, it could be that these games turn out to be a little bit more competitive.
I'd be curious to see if there was if somebody out there that, some statistician that could look at the money that the NFL either gains or loses.
You're right. It's going to come down to money.
What is that dollar amount?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's a good question. The Detroit Lions have proposed a significant change to NFL playoff seeding that would largely use regular season records as the guiding principle rather than division championships, according to the list of potential rule changes for the league released Wednesday. Under the proposal, the division winner with the conference's best record would still receive the number 1 overall seed, but after that, teams would be stacked by records regardless of whether they won their divisions or received wild card berths. So now winning a division is less significant. It's not as important.
Right.
That approach could have a significant effect on the Lions and the highly competitive NFC North, which fielded 3 playoff teams last season. We knew it would happen eventually. We knew that when we expanded the list of wild cards that have, we could eventually have a NFC or AFC wild card situation where every single team from a division is in play. It could happen now.
Mm-hmm.
The approach could have a significant effect. The Lions 15-2, the Vikings 14-3, and Packers 11-6. The Lions received the NFC's number 1 seed, but the Vikings were seeded number 5 and the Packers number 7. Purely based on records, the Vikings would have been the number 3 and the Packers would have been the number 5. The Los Angeles Chargers made a similar proposal in 2023, but it did not get much support. Any NFL team can make a rule change proposal by consideration of the owners. The proposals require at least 24 votes to be approved, but owners are generally more likely to approve proposals that are endorsed by the competitive committee rather than individual teams. Owners are scheduled to meet March 30th to April 2nd in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's coming up Probably because they want to draw some attention away from the burgeoning XFL, which will start play next Friday, by the way. Other club proposals for changes to rules in the bylaws include the tush push, which we mentioned, a proposal that would eliminate the automatic first down that comes with an illegal contact or defensive holding penalty. I would love to see this go away. Do you know what eliminating this rule would mean? Patrick Mahomes has to try again. I saw this.
It's so true. It is so true.
I saw this great article the other day. Right now some teams have made some signings with Dallas, and they're talking about some of these new players coming into the building and what jersey number will they wear. It's kind of like, not really a news story, but they're doing the best they can in light of anything else going on. So like, who's going to wear number 90 now that Tank Lawrence is gone? And they say, some players try to keep their original number. Tom Brady tried to keep number 10 when he came out of Michigan, when he went to Green Bay, but it was held by another player at that time. So he had to go to number 12. And, other players that have just kind of always had significant numbers, like how Ezekiel Elliott went back to 15 when 21 was taken. 15 is what he wore at Ohio State. And they said, and Patrick Mahomes, of course, wears number 15 because it's the number of yards of penalties that he gets if you touch him, So
I saw the same thing. It said, even if you look at him.
If you even look at him, he gets 15-yard penalty. So that's why Mahomes wears number 15. But this would mean that, there might be a penalty for defensive holding or illegal contact, but it wouldn't be an automatic first down. This would be huge for defenses. We've seen defenses absolutely neutered by the NFL in recent years. And if we could take away this penalty, like a lot of times, for those of you who are not big football fans, offenses will be intentionally playing in ways and in styles to draw these penalties. They know that they're up against a team that's not going to let them move forward. So they attempt to draw a flag, some kind of illegal contact, some sort of defensive holding. And by the way, there's holding on every single play if you look closely.
Fuck, yes, there is.
And so that's also what gives referees a lot of power to change the game. We're talking about referees having power to influence the outcome of games. It's all we've talked about the end of the year with the Chiefs and everything. This will take a lot of power, influential power away from the referees because it won't result in an automatic first down. They'll get to replay the down, but they're not going to be able to move the ball forward, and they're not going to get a whole new set of downs. So it was submitted by the Lions, who led the league last season with 11 flags and defensive holding. So I'm not surprised that, they would want to do this. This would benefit the Lions, but I think it would benefit the entire league. So as much as it hurts my mouth to say it, I am with the Lions on this one. Keith, you have any?
Told you it's a new day today, buddy. I'm proud of you.
Do you have any feelings about that rule change?
No, I'm in complete agreement with you. I think it's definitely going to change the way the defenses are playing. It's going to make the offenses have to change. Like you said, they draw those free plays. I mean, how many times have we seen that bullshit? So I'm with you.
We need to cut bullshit out. There's a submission from the Eagles that would give both teams a guaranteed possession in overtime during the regular season, aligning the current rules for the playoff games. I want to set overtime back to what it was in 1995. I'm so fucking sick of it. And we talked about this last week or the week before that we were on the air. But it's like there used to be this concern that games were too long. And they're like, oh, games are 3.5 hours long now. And it's just like, you're allowed to pee at halftime, buddy. You can get through this. But they're talking about games being too long. So they're like, well, we need to change things in overtime so that, so that if we get an overtime situation, it doesn't last too long. It's no longer 15 minutes. It's only 10 minutes. The clock just runs the whole time like it's a high school game or whatever. This is all the shit that they've dug up over the years. And then they're trying to make it, they're trying to change it back. We go back to having a 15-minute overtime period at a sudden death. Who wins the coin toss will choose to get the ball, and then they can kick the field goal, and they will just win the fucking game.
Set it and leave it that way. Because I'm tired every year of trying to figure it out.
I used to like overtime, but it's getting to the point now where I'm just annoyed by it because it's like, you know what? They want to make overtime fair. They want to make overtime fair. They want to say, well, we should both have a chance. We should both get to do this. It shouldn't be the end just because of this. You had 4 quarters to prevent this from happening.
It totally should be that way.
You had 4 quarters. You have 60 minutes of football to prevent this from happening. You're saying I want extra time. I want to be able to have an extra possession. How many possessions did you have?
Everybody gets a trophy, John. Everybody gets a trophy.
But you had a whole game to prevent this. You're talking about how you want to make overtime more complex and more fair. Your time is complex and fair. Your regular time. And if you get to overtime, it should just be to prevent a tie from happening. That's all I want to see. And that's the reason for the coin flip and going down there and kicking the ball and being able to kick the win so the game doesn't end in a tie, because that's the fairest way to end it. Basically, it's a way of it's just breaking a tie. It's just a tiebreaker session is what overtime used to be. Now it's this whole like we're turning it into soccer's like extra time. We're just like, fuck it, just keep playing. You know,
I'm not ready to go home yet.
not ready to go home. We all love football, so just keep playing. The Mahomes rules of both teams need to be able to have a possession of the ball and all this and not only that, but we're changing like every 3 or 4 years. So like, how are we supposed to even compare games of football where overtime's a factor? Because it's like now we're looking at games that are like 10 years apart and the rules are completely different. So I'm so tired of it. I just want a rule that just stays the way it is, because they're already having to explain it every year. Like, this is how overtime works, because nobody knows.
And then if you're out, like, I mean, this has happened to me multiple times, out with buddies watching a game and it goes to overtime. You're like, oh shit, how's this go again?
I know, it makes you. That's the thing about this is what men love about football. This is what we love about it. We love being able to explain it to you. But when we don't have any idea what the fuck's going on, we don't know. Because we'll go to overtime and you're like, well, what happens now, honey?
I don't know.
What happens now, honey? Well, fuck if I know. I don't remember, you know. Who the
Hold on, the graphic will come on the screen here in a second for 10 seconds that you can't even read all of it.
I know. And then Troy Aikman will read it to you, and it's just like, oh, come on. And then, you know,
listen to a caveman.
I'm okay. Well, yes, I'm okay with it being different than college. I actually like the way college overtime works, and I like the fact that it's different between the NFL and college. I'm not saying that we need to unify all football overtime. I like that there's variation in the game. I think that makes it exciting.
When you're done,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, why do you want it different
between college and
There's a reason I'm asking this question.
Because there's always been differences in play historically, and I think you have to have one league that plays by more traditional rules. I think that the way that college does is actually the traditional way of breaking a tie. If you'll notice, it kind of more resembles the games that gave birth to football, like hockey. But you know, the NFL, for example, didn't have the 2-point conversion until like 1994.
Right.
Whereas college had been playing with that since forever. So you need a league that has their own rules and does their own thing. And look at the NFL too. Like, okay, so the NFL is football, but when I talk to people about how much I love football, I always have to put in this caveat. I have to say, I love football so much, but I don't necessarily love NFL as the purest form of football, because look at the way we're talking about how overtime changes and we're not doing this tush push. The NFL is changing its product into a commercial product. It's ruining Christmas. It's making it about Santa Claus. We're forgetting the meaning of football, which is
we're going international.
Hard, nasty, dirty play that's about physically punishing someone who dares to oppose you on the field. It's like diet war is what I want football to be. And we're trying to make it safer with these like extra fluffy helmets and all this. And it's like at some point, and I hope this happens after I die, but we will be distilling the essence of football out of the game until it's gone, and we have some sort of, you know, there won't even be kicking in football anymore, and no one will remember why it's called football. There won't be kickoffs, there won't be punts, there won't be punt returns, there won't be extra points kicked. And so we've already gotten rid of the drop kick, and this past season when we had a free kick, no one understood what the fuck was going on when they went for a free kick. And we're like, yeah, this is a kicking game. There's kicking in football, you know, and it's because we've gotten away from a lot of the kicking already. And my hope is that by maintaining the standards of the NCAA, which has changed some and is going commercial in the style of the NFL, but like I want to preserve Walter Camp and Newt Rockne rules of football, because that's the pure game. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm okay with it being different between Saturday and Sunday. Does that make sense?
So I bring that up in the fact of uniformity. Guys get out of high school, they go to college. Mm-hmm. And obviously not everybody makes it. And I'll use this for baseball as well. Not everybody makes it. But a lot of these guys are going with the hopes of, you know, making it, you know, to the NFL, to the MLB. In baseball, you've got college, you're using metal bats. I don't understand if you're grooming these people and teaching these people to be professionals, and then they go into a whole different league and the rules are different. You need to train these guys to where they hit the ground running. And I don't disagree with your point, but I've always been, especially in the baseball side of it, college shouldn't be metal bats. It should be wooden bats. It should have all the same rules as Major League Baseball. That way, when they get drafted, they're hitting the ground running. I think football should be the same. Whether it's you revert back to college rules in NFL and make that the set of rules, or vice versa. But, I mean, obviously, we could do a whole damn show on just the rule changes in between, but it's just I've always thought that way of, these guys are trying to go and make a career, typically a short career for most, and they come into the pros and everything's different. So I just see where there's
I have a nice counterpoint to that argument. First of all, when it comes to baseball, I'm not going to say anything. I would say, like, let's do it the way Babe Ruth would do it. Like, I'm on the outside, and I think MLB is having to change to try to stay relevant. And I think Major League Baseball is also, I think baseball itself is imbued with the spirit of the game. I think baseball especially is about the spirit of the game and what baseball means. And I know that I'm speaking Greek, and that I'm also speaking a language that I don't know as someone who doesn't really know or love baseball, but there is something about baseball. The fact that we can make movies about it, like Field of Dreams or The Natural or whatever, there's something intrinsically special about baseball. And there's something intrinsically American about it too. I can only talk about football. So when you talk about rule changes between high school Walter Camp football going up to higher levels of play, it's a funneling process, right? How many kids are in high school with dreams of the future? So they're all on a dead run sprint, running towards the future of NFL. It's just like when you're conditioning for the Army, you're running. Sure, there's endurance and there's speed and there's time, but eventually you've got to vault over that wall. There's got to be something there that's a condition of play that is an order of magnitude higher or harder between college and high school, and from college to the pros, that the best of the best have to be able to get over, and all those who cannot are left behind. And that's what's going to keep your top level of play, meaning the NFL. That's how you know that you have the best of the best of the best at every position. I mean, there's lots of other things. There's lots of other walls that prevent, more middling players from doing it. But I think making major changes to the way, like take the wide receiver position, like just the way that a ball is caught in college versus how it is in the pros. Do you have 2 feet in bounds? Do you have 1 foot in bounds? The shove out rule, which has changed over years, whether or not you're pushed out of bounds in the air, that changes a lot about the way wide receivers play. And can you adapt to that? And if you can adapt to that, that shows something to scouts and to coaches in the NFL about your ability to play at that level. And so I'm okay with those changes being there, but I also think uniformity in general is just overrated. Why not have variation? I mean, I'm a fan of the XFL, and they're doing things experimentally, or they have in recent years. They're called the USFL now, but isn't that cool to see differences?
No, it definitely is. It's just it's just a debate topic. I mean, my buddies and I have talked about it, a shit ton. What the right answer is, I don't know, but it's when I look at it. And most of it gears toward the baseball and like the aluminum bats versus wooden bats, because that's a complete game changer, period. But to throw into football, even the pros are having a hard enough time remembering the rules. So
yeah, I mean,
kind of a viewpoint.
You make a good point there, but I think the solution would just be to stop changing the rules of professional play. I think that gets cumbersome, and I know that sometimes you need to tweak things or whatever, but it seems like every year in the off season now, particularly with like special team stuff, the game doesn't even resemble the same game from last year, from season to season now, and it's just getting frustrating. Pittsburgh Steelers want to allow resolution for some direct contact between pending free agents and teams that are pursuing them during the 3-day negotiating window that precedes the opening of the league year. The Pittsburgh Steelers need more chances to talk to people, so I'm not surprised by that. They can't get anyone to play them for them. Also, though, there's a submission out there that they want to be preparing the footballs used in kicking plays the day before the game, like they do with everything else, which is just like a minor thing. What else do we got kind of in the hopper? I don't think I missed any rules changes, propositions going on. We could talk about.
I know you got a hard stop, so yeah, let's hit your Cowboys.
I'll let you finish with the Bengals. All right, so the Bengals, or excuse me, the Cowboys. I didn't mean to say your team's name with like a chagrin in my voice. The thing is, they're kind of doing what I want them to do, I guess. Like, I started looking into this because, like, I've been ignoring the Cowboys, and I'm like, God damn it, what are they up to? What are they up to? I have, of course, been aware of the friction between Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence with his departure to the Seahawks, but I wanted to know what else is going on. Well, it turns out the Cowboys are adding players in free agency. They're not adding notable or good players. No big signings, but they are adding someone. And for those of you who don't understand the context of that, last year they added Eric Kendricks at the last second, which was kind of a nice thing to do because he had already agreed to terms with the 49ers, and Ezekiel Elliott. That's it.
That's it.
We didn't do anything else. We weren't trying to get anyone from anywhere at any point to do anything. And a lot of these free agents, they can come in rotational positions where they're not playing every single down, or backup players, things like that. Last year, a year that is a signature of disaster. If you want to know what disaster looks like, it looks like last year, and we didn't hardly sign any players from free agencies. Jerry Jones came out a couple weeks ago to say, we're not going to solve any of our problems in free agency. And all the Cowboys fans just wept because it's just like, Jerry, have you noticed any other team in the NFL? There's 31 of them, and they all do free agency stuff. And every year, a team does win the Super Bowl. So maybe you should look at teams that are winning the Super Bowl and see how they treat free agency.
Hey, what are they doing?
Lay that out as a pattern for you, Jerry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, somebody's already made the template. All you got
there's a template out there. So they signed Javonte Williams, running back. I think they're picking him up from the Carolina Panthers, which is great for him, because he just went from one situation to another. Maybe he came from a different team. Maybe he came from Denver, actually.
I'm trying to remember.
There's for sure a running back that came out of Carolina that's just like we got rid of Rico Dowdle, who was our main running back last year. We didn't really have a running back, but Rico Dowdle was it. And he started getting better as the season went on. Possibly because teams stopped preparing for a run at all because they saw that we didn't have any. And so Rico Dowdle was suddenly able to exploit certain opportunities because other teams didn't care about having to stop a run. No loaded box or things like that. They didn't even have to worry. Yeah, and we got rid of him, and then
Broncos.
Yeah, and then we brought in another running back from this Carolina whose statistics were like half of what Rico Dowdle's was. So I'm like, well, that's great. I'm glad we got rid of Rico Dowdle and replaced him with Diet Rico Dowdle, who was already, not really a noteworthy player. I have nothing against Rico Dowdle. I appreciate his contributions to last year. He was one of the better players on the team. I just wish that it actually said something. Peyton Turner, defensive end, we brought him in. And he said that he's excited to work with Coach Eberflus. Anyone who's happy about Eberflus, that's a bad sign. And then Kenneth Murray at linebacker. We don't know if all these people are going to be actually playing. Like, they have to still make the team. They might get cut before September. But Jack Sanborn at linebacker, Solomon Thomas, defensive tackle, and Robert Jones at offensive line. It's nice to see them making some moves for their obvious deficiencies. We have deficiencies at every position. We don't even have a backup quarterback right now. We have Will Grier, but that situation's not going to stand pat. Cooper Rush, who we watched play against the Bengals, has gone to the Ravens. And that could all be undone. Cooper Rush could come back or whatever, but nobody plays for this team. We essentially have CeeDee Lamb, we have Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott, and then I don't mean any disrespect to my own play, but it's just and then just whatever, bunch of guys. We're not exactly the 2014 or 2016 Dallas Cowboys, and it was making me sad the other day. I was discussing with my boss. I'm like, you remember how good the 2014 Dallas Cowboys were? Yeah, they were so good. Remember how good the 2016 Dallas Cowboys were? They were number 1 seed in the NFC. That was 9 years ago.
Right. Now here we are.
You look in the mirror and it's like a horror movie from like Saturday afternoon where like your skin is just wax and it melts off and you're a skeleton looking back at yourself. That's how it feels to contemplate the Cowboys' recent history. I have a weird way of putting things, and that's why I'm not on ESPN, guys.
It was perfect. It was perfect because I felt like I was there.
Yes. Cowboys legend DeMarcus Lawrence under the bus after issuing strong advice from Micah Parsons. Now, Tank Lawrence said that he signed with a deal with Seattle, that he was happy about the team that they're building there. A lot of people are happy about Seattle, actually. Seattle seems to be actually like really making moves. I think they got Cooper Kupp, too. They're trying to cobble together a team that can win a championship. And he says, I know I'm not going to win a championship in Dallas. And like, that's what we all know. We all know the truth. Right. And Tank Lawrence said it out loud.
Yeah, he just physically said it.
He literally said it. Took to X to say it, which is, this is what happens when in an era which professional players get to just say whatever they want to say. Something that we never really had, in the era of the 95 Cowboys or whatever. So this is from Essentially Sports. Texas-sized showdown under the blistering sun of the AT&T Stadium. On one side, a grizzled gunslinger who once wore the star. On the other, a young sharpshooter with dynamite in his hands. I'm not sure that Micah Parsons still qualifies as a young sharpshooter with dynamite in his hands. It's less high noon and more Jerry's World, but the drama, pure Dallas. The Cowboys' legacy is stitched with tales of triumph and turmoil. Think Troy Aikman's icy glare, Emmitt Smith's relentless drive, and Michael Irvin's swagger. The triplets who turned the 90s into a silver and blue dynasty. I grew up in that, and I thought it would be that for all time. If I had known that it would turn out this way, would I have had the heart to go on? No, I'd have killed myself at 12. Anyway, decades later, the echoes of these glory days clash with modern beefs. Enter Micah Parsons, the phenom linebacker, and DeMarcus Lawrence, a veteran defensive end, now riding into Seattle sunset. Back in 95, the Cowboys last hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. Since then, a parade of almosts and what-ifs, and I might add debacles. Lawrence, a four-time Pro Bowler, lived for that grind for 11 seasons, but his exit wasn't quiet. I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. So, yeah, we here, he told Seahawks media, sparking a social media duel with Parsons. Enter Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin, who I like, but never shuts up about anything. Michael Irvin, you were doing a lot of cocaine back then, too. Just something to think about. I don't know, but I do like Michael Irvin because he's always standing up to guys in the media who hate on the Cowboys. So Michael Irvin, the Hall of Famer, never one to mince words, fired both barrels. You are directly part of the reason why we don't win a Super Bowl in Dallas. Irvin barked back on Speak on FS1. I want to say that this is a sharp contrast to how normally we talk about Tank Lawrence in Dallas. I know that you're a Bengals fan. I know that people listening really aren't. We love Tank Lawrence. We love him. He's one of the pieces on this team that we have said over the last 11 years has worked. Yes, it's true. He's had a fall off. He's been playing for 11 years. That's to be expected. Sure. But I remember a few years ago, we were just trouncing the New York Giants, and we were making Eli Manning afraid to get up again. And it was because of Tank Lawrence. And we love Tank Lawrence. So the idea that Tank Lawrence leaves Dallas and says, I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. We know it's true. It hurts. The truth is hurtful, like I said earlier in this episode. But now we've got Michael Irvin firing back, and I don't think that it's appropriate. I think that we all here in Dallas should have the humility to realize, yes, he played on the team, but he was one of 53 players who could not generate wins, and to say nothing of the coaches or the ownership. The problem was that defense, what I call Oprah Winfrey defense. He was one of the supposed main catalysts. He got paid all his money, biggest fun track at the time in Cowboys history for that position at that time. Lawrence's post-paycheck production dipped 6.5 sacks max, with Parsons exploded 52.5 sacks in 4 years. But Irvin's rant wasn't just about Lawrence. It was a wake-up call for Parsons. It's a distraction for him when he's about to get paid more money than anybody else in history of the game that didn't play quarterback. The subtext, he's telling Parsons, like, you better watch your mouth. You're criticizing Tank Lawrence when you are about to get a huge paycheck, and now you're about to be in Tank Lawrence's territory. You're the same thing that happened to Tank Lawrence is about to happen to you. Leadership. Parsons, despite his electric play, faces whispers of locker room friction. Former Cowboys wide receiver Drew Pearson, the original great 88, put it bluntly, too much social media. This would drive Coach Tom Landry crazy. Yeah, I think Landry would have hated this.
Yeah.
Although recently I've come to kind of dislike Drew Pearson. I mean, I like him overall. He's an amazing player. He was undrafted, great player. But he was critical of Tony Romo. And it's just like, do you know anything? And I realize this is the wrong forum for this, but do you realize anything about quarterback play if we're going to criticize Tony Romo? I realize Prescott's broken a few of his records, but it's like, it's arguable.
Right.
That aside from Staubach, that Romo was actually the most talented quarterback they ever had. Don't say it was Aikman. Drew Bledsoe was a more talented quarterback for the Cowboys. Exactly. When you have Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith in an era in which running is still important, back in the 90s, Emmitt Smith and fullback Moose Johnston are the reasons why the Cowboys and their offensive line are the reasons why the Dallas Cowboys did so well in the 90s. It wasn't necessarily Troy Aikman, although he was good. I'm not taking anything away from Aikman. But Romo, if Romo had been behind that 90s offensive line with Emmitt Smith, we'd have won 5 Super Bowls. There, I said it.
I believe that.
All right, Irvin's advice: share some of that spotlight because he needs those guys. I want to help Micah Parsons get through, but tension lingers. Lawrence's parting shot. Maybe if you spent less time tweeting. That's what Lawrence said to Parsons. This is you need to spend less time tweeting. Cowboys family facade cracks under scrutiny. Lawrence's exit exposed raw nerves. I've heard before that there's something in the locker room with some of the good guys on defense and Micah Parsons, and I would never have said anything about it because I thought there would be a violation. But now that it's out, we should address it. Irvin admitted, referencing defensive refs' jealousy. I'll tell you what it is. Micah Parsons has a big podcast, and when you're in a locker room and everyone's losing, I think you're worried about beefs between players and problems. I would be afraid to be myself, to express myself, and to speak openly and candidly in a losing locker room for fear that Micah Parsons is going to put it on his podcast.
Right. Exactly. You're put on blast 10 minutes after you leave there.
Yeah. Nothing fixes a problem like winning. And when you're losing, everything gets made 10,000 times worse. And when the idea that the privacy that you might have in a closed locker room, the idea that anything that you say can and will be used against you in a public podcast, I think it causes distrust and causes issues. And I think the play should come before the podcast. And we have people like Jason and what that other Kelsey, Travis to blame for that because, of course, they had the famous Travis or Kelsey Brothers podcast, and I think other players are trying to emulate that. But yeah. I'll give the show to you for the Bengals. Things are going okay for the Bengals.
Yeah, I'll make it super brief, but it's been an exciting, I guess, full week where we knew we were going to sign Jamar Chase. We knew that was going to happen.
He wasn't going to the Patriots like I predicted.
So we knew the Brown family was going to have to come off some money for Jamar on a long-term contract because Burrow, Joe Burrow wanted to keep him. We were going to franchise tag T. Higgins, and they were actually able to come up with a deal for him. So each Chase and Higgins both got 4-year deals, exuberant money. Let's see, Chase's 4-year deal, $161 million, $73.9 million fully guaranteed at signing. I'm just going to hit the highlights real quick. And then
I'll read through it if you want to pull up your video. I see that you took it down, but I want you to be able to play it if you want. From Sports Illustrated, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins complete new contract deals. After new deals with Bengals, I wonder, does this herald new hope for the Bengals who are looking to keep their window open, jammed open from their Super Bowl appearance from a couple years ago? That's what they're trying to do, is keep that team chemistry together, right?
I hope so. I mean, but we've got work on defense. And like the other big spin on this and all the social media peoples out there, the Bengals are trash or, they're not paying their people, blah, blah, blah. Well, now they did it. Now people are still talking shit. But we have Trey Hendrickson, who has been given the opportunity to seek a trade, which that was 3 weeks ago. Nothing's happened. Our defense needed help. So we're beefing up our offense, but not doing anything with our defense. So like I can relate somewhat to you and the Cowboys in the fact I'm looking at as a fan, but also somebody who I like to think I know a little bit about football. You got to beef up your fucking defense.
Go get your video. I want you to be able to play it. Cincinnati Bengals signed 2 offensive weapons, wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins this week, to much to the delight of quarterback Joe Burrow, who wants that talent out there in the field. Sports Illustrated Albert Beer has all the numbers on both sides of those deals. Jamar Chase's 4-year, $161 million extension has $73 million fully guaranteed at signing. Holy crap. Can you imagine just now that the ink's dry, you're just good for the rest of your life?
Right. Generational wealth.
He's also got all kinds of bonuses, and the way that the money will be paid out to him over the next couple of years is going to help them structure it so that the team can do other things. In March 2026, those roster bonuses plus his $28.9 million of his money for 2027 becomes fully guaranteed. His 3-year total is $105 million, with $1.1 million of his $30 million not fully guaranteed until 2027. So he's going to be with the team for a while, as long as there's no injuries or nothing terrible happens. More of those roster bonuses kick in over the next couple of years. Chase is also due a non-guaranteed $44.6 million in 2029, the final year of the deal. Wow. Just so much money.
It's a hell of a contract. I mean, the way it was structured, it's amazing that the Brown family actually came off of that, to do that for him and then what they did for Higgins. So
it's amazing just how much money is getting spent, but also just doing everything they can do to keep everything together. T. Higgins, 4-year, $115 million, has $30 million fully guaranteed at signing, $20 million roster bonus this March, and a $10 million roster bonus next March. So if he keeps playing and stays with the team and stays healthy, the money will be there for him. Interestingly, $13.8 million base for his next year is not yet guaranteed. So there's some incentives there, or I should say ways out for the Bengals in case he gets injured or whatever. The practical guarantee here is at $45.9 million if he plays in all 17 games this year, with $35.9 million due in 2025, and the $10 million roster bonus for next year subjects the offsets, which means the Bengals could get out of the deal after a year what they just paid in 2025 if someone paid him more than $10 million. So there's some room there that they could negotiate things to try to keep him on the team, or if things really go pear-shaped, that they could try to figure out a way to offhand that financial liability. The Bengals don't have a history of cutting guys after a year, though. So looks like you're going to keep these players that you love for the next couple of years. That's going to feel good, feel secure. You can make a run in the NFC, particularly if the Chiefs are waning, as we all hope and pray that they are. But go ahead and play your video.
He's not the QT Higgins. They got to take care of Jamar Chase. They can't pay him. The Bengals want to create the impression that they tried. You didn't try, you failed.
Hey, you gonna be able to get a deal done? Ideally is a situation that doesn't deal with reality. You're not gonna be able.
Yeah, I don't see how they pay. I don't see how. I'm not saying it can't be done. I just don't see how.
I thought that this was going to be what we have come to expect from the Bengals for a long time. The same old Bengals. They're not going to get the deals done with the wide receiver. I was wrong.
Wow.
This is what happens when you F around. You find out.
We're intent on winning and doing what's necessary to make sure we do.
Higgins and Chase are back.
They are not the same old Bengals, and they're not acting like it.
Yeah, who they?
So that is a hype video, and it feels good for Bengals players who get to basically show up every single member of the media, from Pat McAfee to Shannon Sharp to Stephen Jones, or Stephen A. Boy, I've got a Freudian slip there. I would love to stand up to Stephen Jones. But Dan Orlovsky and all these other guys who are in the media saying that the Bengals are the old Bengals and they're not going to pay anyone and they're not going to do what's necessary.
Shout out to Joe Billy for the video, by the way.
And they get to, thank you, Joe. And then now they get to stand up and say, look, we silenced all our critics. We silenced all our doubters. We can do business as well as anyone in the NFL. We could do business better than Jerry Jones, for one. And we can keep this team together, the team that we had that built, that went to the Super Bowl. And this time we're going to make a run for it. We're going to win the Super Bowl. So it's got to have Houday fans, Bengal fans, absolutely titillated. There are no videos coming out of Dallas. I believe the stadium is switching back to Coke from Pepsi this year. So
that's the highlight of the off.
something to be. And then with eggs getting cheaper, maybe the hot dogs will come down too. I don't know. Keith, when's the next thrilling episode of One More and I'm Out of Here?
Today, 4 Eastern. This one's going to be a good one. And I know some people had to drop off, but this is going to be a good one because our buddy Andrew, as you call him, Pepperoni, Andrew Pappas, got accosted here locally. And there's video of it. and he hit TikTok viral status. So it's all over politics, but it's humorous to watch, and he's gonna rant about it. So it's gonna be a good one.
Oh, I've realized that we were cutting into failure to stop. That's not cool.
They've done it.
Whatever. All right. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Thanks for sticking around late. If you did watch this episode later this afternoon, it's going to be a good one. We'll catch you guys next week. Keith, I love you.
I love you, John.
Bye.
See ya.